Well, hello again. Dave Hill coming at you again with another lesson. I hope you've been studying hard and learning the previous lessons we've already gone over. But today we're going to continue on building on that knowledge, and hopefully this is all starting to make sense as we go on with each lesson. But before we do anything else, I want to make sure we warm up. We need to make sure that our hands and fingers are kind of stretched out, and I talked about that in the first lesson. So let's go ahead and review the warm-up exercises from our first lesson and make sure that we're all stretched out. So here's what you want to do. You remember the first fingering for the chord we had for stretching was this. Okay, that was a good chord to stretch out for. Let's go over that one more time. And we followed that with an A chord that had a nice stretch in it. Okay, so we're going to put those together and get our hands stretched out. Here we go. Nice and slow, but even. Okay, so if you do that for a few minutes before you warm up, your fingers will stretch out, your blood will get flowing through your hand, and you should loosen up. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, so you could continue to do that more if you'd like. Okay, but let's do the next thing that's going to involve warming up, and that's getting our right and left hand synced together. And as we learned in lesson 1, that was simply a chromatic, sort of a pseudo-chromatic exercise. It simply was this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Staying in one position. Okay, so that's simply this. I'm going to count you in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're just trying to get our hands synced together. Okay. If you wanted to do it faster, if you felt like that was a comfortable speed, and that's totally okay too. Let's do that a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, you could just vamp that, meaning play it back to back over and over again, getting your hands really locked together. And of course, we learned different pattern variations. We could try a new one today, maybe 4, 3, 1, 2. How about that? So anything to get your hands synced together and challenged in just the different combinations of your left hand fingering. That's what you're trying to do. Challenge your fingers in different combinations. Okay, so that's our warm-up for today. So as you also remember from our last lesson, we learned some of the open string roots, and we learned how to move those into shapes that are eventually going to become movable bar chords as we go up the neck. So we're going to do that. We're going to review a little bit of the open string chords, and then we're going to show you how all those become bar chords too. Okay, so let's just check this out here. The first open root, C, as we remember, we call that pattern 1, became a C chord, like that. Okay? Now, I want you to see something now. If I were going to move this chord up a half step to play it, it's not going to sound very good unless I do something with my fingers. Okay, listen to what happens. Doesn't really work, right? Not unless I'm trying to get mysterious sounding on you. Not really what we want. But what was basically the nut doing right here that I need to do as I go up a half step? I need to replace it with my first finger to make a movable bar chord out of it. Okay? So that's what I need you to do. You need to take your C chord and instead of fingering it like this, finger it like this, and then you can move it anywhere you want, excuse me, and you put your first finger where the nut would be, and this is your roots, this is your root, and the rest of it is all part of the shape now. Isn't that neat? So the C chord here in pattern 1 becomes a movable pattern 1 shape by fingering it like this, and then you've got a movable pattern 1 bar chord. So this is the root, so this would be, let's say, F. This would be D, this would be D flat, and back to C. Okay, so that's very helpful to know. So pattern 1 becomes pattern 1 movable bar shape. Okay, the next chord we had was an A shape. Okay, now what do we do with the A shape? If we want to make it a movable bar chord, okay, we know our roots are right there, but if we go up a half step, it's not really going to work. But the open A was there, so if we go up a half step, we simply include the root now, and now we've got a movable bar chord from the A shape. Okay? So let's link those together in the key of C. C, open position. Now the movable bar shape C, pattern 2, originated from the A shape, but now movable. Okay, the next open string chord we had was a G shape. Okay, now the G shape sounds fine, right there an open G, but what happens when you want to go to A flat? Not going to work. Sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? Okay, all these open strings don't have anything to do with these notes. So how do we fill in the notes? Well, we simply use our first finger again to bar what the nut was already doing, right? So it's a little bit of a big chord if you put all the notes together, but that would be a pattern 3 movable chord, bar chord, based off pattern 3 open G. Now, I like to also just simplify this chord by playing up to the C here, and don't even include the high E string. It's okay too, but if you want to include it all the way to the root, there it is. So that would be, C would be right here now. The C roots are right here. So we've got C, pattern 2 C, pattern 3 C, and what do you think is going to happen next? I bet you can guess at home. If this is pattern 3, what's the next chord we're going to play? It's going to be pattern 4. And if you remember, the pattern 4 roots were right here, which became a pattern 4 open string chord. But that's kind of cool, actually, but that's not what we want to do right now. We want to make it a movable chord, so we have to include the roots that are on the open strings here by simply barring. And that's not hard to do at all. It's a very familiar chord for a lot of people, I'm sure. So that's a pattern 4 movable major chord, in this case F major, but originated from the open E shape. So these are good, powerful bar chords that you can play all over the place, and a lot of people probably know this one and this one the best because they're the most common. Okay, so that's now in the key of C up here. So once again, C pattern 1, C pattern 2, C pattern 3, C pattern 4. And all these chords originated from the open string chords. But now they're going up the neck. Okay, finally the last open string chord was right here. Okay, now, check it out. What did we have here for the roots? We had this root, and the root that was the D, open D. But, once again, unless you want to do that, you really need to have something that's more movable, so that the root goes with the triad on the top. So it's simply a matter of putting your first finger down, and then you've got a movable shape. So this is D, this is D sharp. There's the root, and there's the second root. Okay? Now, keep in mind you don't want to hit the open strings there on the bottom. So these two notes don't have anything to do with these notes above it. So you want to be careful where you strum. So it's a nice bright chord because it deals with mostly the top four strings. Okay, there's other notes you can include on the bottom, but I'll show you that later. So there's your D shape, which becomes a C chord way up here. So if you put all these C chords together, you've got 5 positions of C shapes as movable bar chords. Okay, and of course, you want to put these in different keys. So it would be a good idea to take every one of these open string chords that we learned from our last lesson and start in the open position and then move those up through the bar chords. So you would do the same with G, right? And then you would go to the next form of G, but now it's going to be a bar chord, so it's going to be based off the pattern 4 roots, which basically from the E chord down here, right, and then up the neck. This one becomes, the G shape is right here based off the D form, or pattern 5. And then as you go up the neck, there's your pattern 1 shape that was based off the C chord here, but now we're in the key of G. And so on and so forth. And back to open G. Okay, so these become very useful open, started off as open string chords that become movable bar chord shapes. Okay, absolutely important that you learn these and put these all over the neck. Okay, so they started off as these roots right here, and as we've learned, they become movable shapes simply by filling in the rest of the notes. Okay, don't even worry about what the frets here say, because they're just movable shapes now. Okay. This one is going to be. So that's what we just covered right there. Okay, I just wanted to review the open string chords we learned last lesson real quickly with a progression. So I've written a progression that we're going to focus on here in a minute. It's going to give us an opportunity to also work on some new information. But let's just go over the open string chords again. Open A was right here. Open C right here. Open D right here. Open E right here. And open G was right here. Sounds great on a Telecaster, don't they? Just nice, open, clean chords. Okay, so if you look over here at this progression, I've tried to use most of the chords in open position, but I didn't find a place for the C chord. But that's okay. It still sounds pretty good without the C chord. But we're going to use this progression for soloing and also for practicing rhythm guitar. So check it out. We could just play something as simple as this kind of a thing. Perhaps playing it like with a little bit of a anticipation on the second and the fourth bars. This represents a bar of music right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So what I like to do is I like to anticipate the downbeat of this chord by just playing it on the upbeat of the previous bar. So you'll hear me playing this. Right? 1, 2, 3. I don't do it that time, but I go back to it. Then I throw in this chord. Okay, so that's what I pretty much do there.